This is on CNN the other day. And listen, I think this is going to happen more and more right now where, you just can't hide the story anymore. You can't BS anymore.
Well, that's what Mehdi Hassan found out, huh?
Yeah. So CNN anchor disavows the intent of Israeli war crimes in Gaza after a retired U.S. general says the quiet part out loud. Watch this. He's like, in real time, he's discovering this and speaking.
But does that mean, does that mean starve the Palestinian people, continue to, because they will be so hungry and will be so desperate for water and medicine that then they will give up Hamas?
It sounds callous, but I mean, this is a war.
You know why this? Okay, let me tell you something.
Can we stop? Can we let that sink in?
No,
it sounds callous.
Okay,
this is a war.
I don't know how long. Since
Out
I was
loud.
Since I was a kid, so I don't know how many years. I've never, because I especially didn't want to know anything about this, because I saw nothing to help me about knowing anything about this. The only reason people are starting to see it now is because what that guy said, we just got done hearing how evil Russia is. Mm-hmm. Russia said they can't have NATO on their border. They need a buffer zone. All of a sudden, well, that's ridiculous. Why? You don't want us on your border? We're just the only country that's dropped nuclear bombs before. And Israel's demanding the same stuff Russia wants this whole time.
Yeah.
I had forgotten about it because I'd just been hearing about every other thing for 20 years. But we just came fresh off of not only saluting Nazis live in person, to saying Russia goes after civilians and kills civilians. The whiplash of that is that it's too much even for like a normie dullard. That's too much whiplash.
Yeah, and I think they don't even hide it now. They just justify it. But I want to play this.
I'm a dullard, by the way. It's too much for me.
I want to play this again too as well, because you can see this anchor. He's like he's figuring out this in his head, and he's speaking this. And I was wondering if after he said this, goes, did I just say that out loud?
Sounds harsh, but that's
I might not be an anchor anymore.
I thought those were crimes that we got to bring Putin to court for, because he deported children out of Donbass, which is a war crime. He actually rescued children from there. And he just said starving the entire population.
Watch this one more time. He's saying this as he's discovering this in his head.
But does that mean, does that mean starve the Palestinian people, continue to, because they will be so hungry and will be so desperate for water and medicine that then they will give up Hamas?
It sounds callous, but I mean, this is a war.
Wow. Isn't that collective punishment? Isn't that illegal? Well, Marc Lamont Hill, remember him? He got put in the penalty box, right, for saying some stuff. I know Marc Lamont Hill.
He used to do my old podcast with me and Sharad.
He puts every interviewer to shame by forcing the Israeli former foreign minister to admit that Israel is deliberately starving and bombing a captive civilian population to get what they want. A war crime. Not one British journalist has done this. Watch this. Wow. This is just beautiful here.
He said that the humanitarian situation, quote, will only deteriorate exponentially, and that crucial life-saving supplies, including fuel, food, and water, must be allowed into Gaza. So the UN is saying you must do this. You are saying you're not going to do this. How do you?
No, we're not saying that.
He's saying do it. He's saying doing it immediately. What I'm saying is what you're doing. No. He's saying doing it immediately. I got you. I'll tell you exactly what we're saying. I'm saying we will do everything for the Gazan people. Once and now we demand immediate surrender, unconditional surrender of Hamas. If Hamas people come out with their hands up and clear their weapons, believe me, everything will be restored to Gaza. It is Hamas in Hamas hands. Now I understand. Thank you for clarifying that, sir. I think we're actually on the same page here. You're saying that once Hamas leaves, you'll grant the Gazan people food, shelter, fuel, electricity, hospitals, schooling. And if they don't, and if Hamas doesn't leave, then they'll continue to starve and die in hospitals. You are defining for the international community right now collective punishment. You're saying until Hamas acts differently, the 2 million people in Gaza are going to be treated this way. And once Hamas acts differently, these 2 million people in Gaza will be treated better. That is exactly what collective punishment is. You're holding them accountable for the actions of others. That is the definition, the textbook definition of collective punishment, sir. Now, you may accept that that's what you want to do, But this is absolutely a contravention of international law.
Well, I'll tell you exactly. No, if we pushed them to the wall, we're not pushing them to the wall. We want to open a humanitarian corridor so they can leave. But if Hamas,
so that who can leave? Citizens? You're saying civilians can leave, but only through the Rafah border, correct?
At this point, yes.
So they can't come.
Where else?
Your country. They can come into Israel.
I'm telling you one more thing I want to say.
I want you to address that point. Don't just smile, sir, respectfully. You're saying you're making a corridor. They can go to Egypt. You're bombing them. You say you want to save them, but they can't come in.
First of all, I'm not smiling. I'm crying in my
This is gonna not. I don't know that Israel's gonna pull this one off this time. I gotta tell you, because it's kind of, you know, now the woke is the crypto of woke has collapsed. That coalition is breaking apart. Like, this stuff's gonna come out. Everybody spent the last 7 years being real self-righteous about all kinds of stuff, and now we're whiplash. Like, yeah, something out of a movie. Well, when you give me Zorro, I'll stop killing. When the terrorist Zorro comes out, I'll stop starving the town. There's no way to spin this. There's just no way to spin this.
Yeah, listen, I have a lot of conversations right now. I told you I'm from Boca Raton, Florida, and I grew up in a predominantly Jewish
Boca
area.
Raton's full of assholes, you know that.
Well, yeah, but I even have Jewish friends too as well. They're texting me right now as they're watching the show. I got a couple lunch dates coming up.
Retired dentist from Manalapan.
So we have a lot of talk. I mean, it's really. I mean, at this point, I think they've painted themselves into a corner.
Is anybody going to say this? Here's what I want to hear, and I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah.
Again, because I think it's inflammatory what I've been saying, that Gaza is a concentration camp. That's an inflammatory thing to say. Not one person goes, "Come on, Kurt." No, it's not. Not one person says that.
Because they're not. They don't deny it. They justify it, and that's the difference. And that's the craziness of it.
It really sticks out. And then this guy.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like, where is this okay in the world?
Yeah.
I mean, this is wild. All these people that were crying about Trump's border wall are now, I better get with this. Yeah. Okay? I'm saying Sarah Silverman, obviously. But
Dan?
All the liberals, the border wall. Yeah. That's fascism. You're cool with this? Wow.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get Amy Schumer. Is it Amy Schumer?
I wouldn't even.
We didn't even get
she don't know nothing about it. Chuck Schumer's her uncle. Her uncle's Chuck Schumer.
All right. Yeah. Dan, what do you got to say about this so far?
I mean, it's just incredible seeing it all come out. It's just like the truth is coming out. The whole, farce of Israel is. Remember the only democracy in the Middle East? What happened to that? I mean,
that's my favorite.
The Overton window, the Overton window is just like so far shifted. Israel is going to lose. I mean, to me, these kinds of laws it's passing, they can just imprison anyone for undermining state morale. Look, fascism is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of weakness of a regime. Look at all the stuff Ukraine has done. Does Ukraine look very strong right now? It's like there's a countdown, frankly, on the state of Israel is what I think about this. The question is, how many people is it going to take down with it?
The world.
And, like how bad is this going to get? Is this going to get regional war? Is this going to be world war? Remember, Israel has nuclear weapons, and it has something called the Samson option. You can guarantee there are a bunch of fanatics. All those fanatics, those Smotrich-like figures, they're not just in politics. They're in the military. They're everywhere. Yeah. Okay, they're all over the place. Just like in Ukraine, the Azovites are in the military. They're in the top. Okay, so you can be sure that there are a bunch of them that are itching, especially with their apocalyptic prophecy, to drop some kind of nuclear weapon on, Tehran or something like that.
So, and they're going to find a way to try to justify it too, as well. You know what I'm saying? And by always making their enemy look to be barbaric and whatnot. There was a time in my life where I had to admit that, the United States foreign policy, the American troops coming in, we weren't actually Captain America going in there to liberate people and spread democracy and freedom. We were actually the bad guys. And I think a lot of people have a hard time, a lot of Israelis, a lot of Jewish friends of mine have a hard time admitting this, saying, how can you compare Hamas to Israel? It's so much different. Hamas, they're barbaric and whatnot. But if you simply look at how many people have been displaced by Israel alone. It's just mind-blowing. We're over 1 million now in the last 10 days. Over 1 million. So don't come at me and say like, "Oh, this is different over here."
Don't worry about Look, don't worry about comparisons. Worry about your prime minister paying them before you worry about it comparing. I would say worry about what in the hell's going on that the people are so bad you got to starve everybody that kind of looks like them that was paying for them. You should handle that first, actually, before the actual, murder.
That too. Dan, you were saying. I'm sorry.
Keep this in mind also. I mean, the Ukraine comparison, I haven't really, thought that much about, but it's really an important point that one of you two guys, I don't know who brought up. Consider what's Zelensky been saying to make sure the U.S. aid, money keeps coming in. Well, he intimated, he implied that maybe, these Ukrainians are real desperate. Maybe they're going to do something. Maybe some of these Azovites are going to, get into Western European countries. Or the United States, or who knows, and there's all kinds of weapons. Do you think Israel might not do the same if something happened with the United States where it started to say, so when you play with fire, that fire can get out of control. The United States, Wall Street largely financed the rise of Nazi Germany. Yep. How did that go? How did that go in the end? So
that is very true.
We are seeing the Zionism come into its most pure form. Zionism has always been fascism, and back in the 1920s, they were open about it. The revisionist Zionist movement that Netanyahu's Likud party is the ideological that draws its ideology from, was inspired by Italian fascism, and it wasn't ashamed about it. Fascism wasn't a dirty word then like it is now. It's like, when you want to call someone a Republican, you just say fascist. It's not that. It was real fascism. And now we're seeing it come, as I've described, how it's gone from this kind of, messianic thing all the way to this apocalyptic nuclear armed state. So, Ukraine didn't have nuclear weapons, doesn't have nuclear weapons. Israel does.
Because fascism, in fascism, in Italy, there were Jewish fascists because that was actually national social. As long as you were a citizen, you could be in the party. National socialism, Nazism, that's actually racial socialism. The nation is all the Germans and white people, right? That one sounds a little closer to the one you're describing in Zionism. The one where it's a race and a religion. Because I remember people saying it's not a race, it's a religion. I remember when I was younger, people would say that. Then
that's what I was taught. That's what I was taught when I was a kid growing up in my synagogue. They told us, "You're not a religion, you're a race." Wow.
Wait, they said race and not a religion?
Correct.
They
said race and a religion.
They did.
Like,
when I had an Israeli girlfriend, so my girl was Israeli for 10 years. And it's funny, like, we were together a while, but it's a whole thing that I'm not Jewish. And, that's what I found out about, like, the marriage laws of Israel and all that, which are, like, somewhat of a resemblance to a certain time period in America that we're not proud of. And, I would screw with people. I'm like, why can't I? And they go, well, maybe if you convert. And then I found out if I converted, because she didn't follow she followed a little bit, like she didn't eat treif or whatever, but I would have to be observant. She could just be nationalist and not religious, and I would have to, like, I don't eat bacon. Like, I would have to actually do the rules if I converted.
Hey, come see us doing the live shows. We're going to be in San Diego, Bloomington, Illinois, Indianapolis, Levittown, New York, Red Bank, New Jersey, Wilmington, Delaware, Covina, California, Burbank, California, and Oxnard, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets. See you at a live show.